Hey everyone, so this video is going to walk us through the process of completing the square. Okay, and so your first step is just to really make sure that A is 1. Okay, you can only use the process of completing the square when A is 1. If A is not 1, then you need to divide everything in the equation by whatever A is to create a new equation that is still equivalent, but a new equation where A is 1. So the first thing you're going to do is, once you've done that, is move everything that has a variable to one side, meaning anything that has a z in this case will be on the left side, and anything that does not, which means it is a constant, will go on the right side. And so in this case, it's already done. On my left side, I have all my terms that have z, and on my right side, I have my constant. And so now I'm going to find out, well, what is that c value that I can add to both sides to make my left side a perfect square. Okay, but the key is when you add something to one side, in order to keep your equation balanced, you need to also add it to the other side, right? And so it's just like when we solve, we say what you do to one side, you do to the other. In this case, the only way you can keep that equation balanced is if I'm going to add a value in here for c, I need to add that same value on the other side. And so just like from our previous video determining how to find what goes in that box, I'm going to take b, which in this case is -18. I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. And so remember, this is side work. So remember that side work goes on the side. It should not be under where we're completing the square. It goes to the side. And so this gives me -9 squared, which is 81. So that c value that I'm going to add to both boxes is going to be a positive 81. Okay, and it's always going to be positive, because even though the 9 is negative, when you square something, right, the result should be positive. A negative times a negative gives you a positive, and if it was a positive 9, a positive times a positive. So when you're adding to both sides, that box, it's always going to be a positive number. Okay, and so you could factor this side, and it gives you z and z, and my factors of 81 that give me -18 are -9 and -9. And it's like a fancy little trick that whatever you get when you divide b by 2, that -9, that's also what's going to go inside your parentheses. Okay, so you can either factor or just remember the trick that when you divide b by 2, that -9 is what will go here. If this was a positive 9, it would be plus 9. Okay, and this equals 144. Right? And so our goal here, remember, this completing the square, the purpose is to solve and get z by itself. But I have 2 z's here. And so somehow I have to figure out, well, how can I combine this so that there's only one z? And so I can rewrite this as z minus 9 squared. So remember, when you square something, you're multiplying it by itself. And so I can kind of take that and go backwards and combine them. And this equals 144. Okay, and so this is where we use our square root principle. I want to get z by itself, and so I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I'm left with z minus 9 equals plus or minus the square root of 144 is 12. Okay, I want to get z by itself, and so I'm going to add that 9 to both sides. And so z equals, well, remember that plus or minus has to stay with the 12, and so I'm going to say 9 plus or minus 12. And so our last little step is going to be to separate this so that I can get my 2 different answers. And so z is going to be 9 plus 12, and z is 9 minus 12. And so z is going to be 21, and z will be -3. And so remember to write your solutions inside of your bracket.